Hello and welcome to our first biweekly video. Like I said, I'm an open book. This is your chance to ask me about anything from my disability to my writing process. Nothing is off limits. The first question comes from Robin. Her question is, how do I maintain a positive spirit? Contrary to popular belief, having a disability does not mean I always have a positive attitude. I don't. In fact, during my college years, I struggled with depression. This is partly because of the medication I was on for my CP. During that time, I had a pump in me that dispensed medication directly into my spine continuously. Over time, though, I realized the medication was affecting my thinking. Wake up, page down, go to sleep. I mentioned this to the doctor, but since the therapy was barely new, there was no evidence that linked it to depression. Fast forward a couple years later, and an infection in my back caused doctors to remove the pump. Immediately after surgery, I began laughing. I noticed things around me and was not just an observer in my life. In answer to her second question, is happiness a gift or something that just comes naturally? No, happiness does not come naturally. Based on personal experience, I know that tomorrow is never promised, and not to take anything for granted. Faith plays a role in my positivity as well. Being disabled gives me a unique perspective on dependence. Since I rely on others for my daily needs, I know what it means to surrender. I'm not perfect. In fact, if I'm honest, I have a tendency to want to control what little I can. Wake up, page down, go to sleep. But I realize God has seen me through so much. I know his plans are better than I could ask or imagine. And if you want more on that, it's Ephesians 3:20. The next few questions come from my friend Becky and have to do with my writing career. She asks, when did you decide you wanted to write? In truth, I don't really remember the moment I decided I wanted to become a writer. I've always just had a creative mind and an active imagination. I remember my wheelchair being placed against the radiator and my dad's house plunking on my word predictive software. This was way before voice recognition technology. It involved typing words out letter by letter. With each letter, the program tried to guess the word based on the sentence structure and context. Then it came up with a list of 7 predictions. Wake up, page down, go to sleep. Just in case you're wondering, I'm saying page down because I have all these answers written down and I'm reading from a script so I don't miss anything. Go to sleep. So it had 7 possibilities and I pressed the number that corresponded to my selection. After writing some, I shared it with my family and they were impressed by my talent. Ever since then, I've noticed that there aren't many authentically disabled writers. People who write stories based on research rather than personal experience. I'm not saying research based writing is bad. It's just different. There's something special knowing that an author hasn't just written about topics, but experienced them personally. Becky's next question is, have I ever considered being a sensitivity reader? For those that are not familiar, a sensitivity reader is someone who reads a manuscript with a certain purpose in mind. Readers usually utilize the help of sensitivity readers when they are not familiar with a topic or subjects that they are writing about. For instance, wake up, page down, go to sleep. For instance, if they are writing on a particular topic on CP, I might point issues they might have not thought of, etc. Many people have asked where I have submitted my book. Truth is, I haven't gotten to that part yet, but gotten to that part yet. I'm still working with the writing coach to finish the last chapter and make edits and corrections. But now that we signed a contract, I have 6 months to finish my manuscript and then we go shopping for publishers. Becky's next question was, which I don't have on here, but what was the hardest part of school and what was the easiest? I did very well academically in school growing up, despite having despite being very smart and like academically minded. My parents had trouble getting me mainstreamed at first. They actually had to uh, um almost a fight to get me mainstreamed because they the teachers and a- academic people were afraid like I wouldn't be able to make it in mainstream classes. So my mom, this is funny, my mom actually had to at one point become my aide during some of my classes to take notes and to like help me raise my hand to answer questions during those classes because at that point they didn't offer services or didn't want to offer services to um disabled people because they didn't think they were capable of being mainstreamed. That's what room 54 was. Room 54 was basically a class in a public school that had a bunch of disabled students or people who had were deaf and use sign language to communicate. That that was the central hub for people with disabilities. That classroom, and so far, when people went to regular classes, they came back to that classroom. That was their hub because at that point, we were only to go allowed to go to certain classes because they didn't know how, like, based on a person's academics, they were only allowed to go to certain classes. Um, and that was based on your IEP. For those who are not familiar with that, that's individual education plan. In the olden days, they used these plans to determine a child educational like goals in the academic system. For most people, it was like just getting socially adapted to the classroom or doing socially acceptable things or just interacting with other students. Whereas for the more academically minded, you would actually do the classwork and hand it in to the teacher. It just depended on your academic plan. What was the hardest part for me? I would have to say adjusting socially because early on people weren't very accepting of having people having disabled people in the classroom with regular ed students. They didn't think it was possible. They didn't think some of us were smart enough to participate in regular ed schools. So I would say just being in the school itself and adjusting to other people's views of me. And well, when I'm talking views, I'm not talking about the teachers, I'm talking about the students. They stared at me while I was um using my head controls to drive to class. They parted the waves like the Red Sea because they were afraid that they weren't gonna catch it. my disability, but of course they didn't know any better. So I would say that was the hardest part. Um, I think I covered everybody's questions for this week. Hopefully it gives you a better understanding of who I am, and go to sleep. Sorry, my voice bar. Go to sleep. Sorry, my voice bar just turned on and started editing the um transcript that I had. Hopefully this gives you a better understanding of who I am and why advocacy is such a very important part of my life. Um uh I'm I'm very thankful to the ones of you that participated and um put your questions out there. This is your once again, is your way to get to know me and to understand where I'm coming from, maybe, and lead you to ask more questions, to not be afraid of people with disabilities. Um, as always, I love you, but God loves you more. Thanks again, guys, and I'll see you again in 2 weeks. Keep those questions coming. This was a good start, but I'm anxious to see what you come up with next week. Love you.